got friends, only wanna talk business. I got expensive, cause winning's expensive. I got expensive, cause winning's expensive. I've been reading all the war, and I've been shutting down the stars.
Hi, and welcome to Put That Coffee Down, the Freight Sales podcast and show for closers. My name is Kevin Hill, here with
Richie Daigle.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about sales today. We're going to be talking about learning. We're going to be talking about setting appointments. You know, qualifying leads, getting leads from that cold lead to that hot prospect. That's always fun times.
Yeah. What are you going to do if you don't have appointments?
I don't know. What do you do if you don't have an appointment?
You figure out a way to set them.
You do, yes. Yeah, we have Justin Oglesby coming in here in about 25 minutes talking about setting appointments. He is the co-founder of Conversions.ly, and it's all about warming up prospects, getting that prospect into a funnel, contacting them, and setting that appointment, which is very important for sales. And sometimes it's not really the true skill set of all salespeople, right? It's very disciplined. I mean, it's very niched, right? You can be good at one thing, but not so good at another. You know, you have the hunters and the farmers. You hear that all the time, people who know how to go out and get new business, and the people who know how to grow that business. And that's always, that's often thought of as different personality traits. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. But all through the sales process, from prospecting to presenting to closing, you're strong in some areas and you're not so strong in others.
Yeah, and you have to work on those weaknesses, right? You want to get better at the things that you identify are weaknesses while you continue to grow your strengths. And then from a managerial standpoint, you want to start to move people into positions that accentuate or bring out their strengths. And so if you do have those people on your team that are go-getters and fantastic at, they can strike up a conversation with anybody in a room about anything, anywhere, anytime. And yeah, you want those people on the ground and making those appointments, where if you have your technical, maybe a bit more introverted personalities that are really understand the product and application, then maybe they're not the best ones to get on some of these calls, because they're going to want to make every call 20 minutes, and people just don't have that kind of time.
You're exactly right. And so sometimes your weakness is better to focus on your strengths and let someone else who that your weakness is their strength take over for that, and that's called outsourcing.
Yep.
Automation, outsourcing, sometimes that's the best avenue to take, instead of trying to beat your head against the wall. And if you can't hit a 100-mile-an-hour pitch, don't keep trying.
Yeah.
Right?
See if you can throw one instead.
Yeah, exactly. Like the guy in Chattanooga now, the guy who's playing for the Lookouts. He set a record for, what was the record, Richie?
I think it was a record for all of baseball. It was, I think, either 37 or 39 pitches in a single outing that were over 100 miles an hour. And he only threw like 70-something pitches in the whole outing. Like, it wasn't like he was throwing 100 pitches. And I mean, he just blew that record out of the water.
Yeah, I know, and that tells most of the story, but were there 71 pitches in one inning, or was he getting people out? Because that's what's really important, right?
Yeah, I think it was a good outing.
That's good. That's good. We're going to talk a little bit about sports and a little bit about practice and training. Justin was a professional bull rider as well, so there should be some entertaining stories about getting on the back of a bull, which is, I don't know if that's scarier than facing down a 100-mile-an-hour pitch or not. What do you think?
Yeah, that'd be tough.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm more comfortable as a baseball player, so I'm probably getting in the box versus getting on the back of a bull. But for somebody that has no experience in either, I'd be curious to see.
I think getting on the back of a bull is probably more scary.
Yeah.
I can almost guarantee you that. But let's talk about Surge Transportation, our sponsor here at Put That Coffee Down. Surge Transportation is the fastest growing 3PL in the logistics space today. Based in Chicago and Jacksonville, they offer unrestricted access to almost all accounts, limitless territory, and a chance to be a key player in a growing company. To find out more, email jobs@surgetransportation.com. Once again, that is jobs@surgetransportation.com, and that's spelled S-U-R-G-E. Talking about the surge of demand and surge of a freight that has been going, what, 12, 15, 18 months now?
There's a lot of surging going on.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it here in a few minutes as well, as we do our sonar chart of the week here at Put That Coffee Down. But let's talk about the learning process, right? And we were talking about it. There are no shortcuts in this learning process. No matter what you're doing in life, there's ways to condense that time down, but you just can't skip around. And it's basically a pyramid or a staircase, and it starts at the bottom when you start something new, and that's called unconscious incompetence.
Yep, it's when
Right.
you don't know that you don't know.
Actually, it's when you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
I think
that's what I said.
Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Maybe.
you don't know
I
that you don't. Well, I don't know that I don't know. But
True, you have no idea. You have no idea. So a lot of times, that's when it's really awkward. It's like you're learning to walk, right? Or learning the pitching motion, or learning how to hit a golf ball. You don't even know what to think about or what to do to actually do it.
Exactly. Yeah, you're a blank slate at that point. And so you are trying to learn the things that you're doing wrong,
Yep.
so that you can then fix them. And so that's when you start anything, you need to understand everything that you don't know so that you can learn it. And that's the only way you're going to learn is through that process. So yeah, that's just a natural starting point for learning any new skill set.
It really is. And it's also very interesting whenever you're selling, right, and you're going to a client, sometimes what you're presenting, their reaction or their state of mind is unconscious incompetence because they don't even know what they're doing wrong. You have a solution, but they don't even know that it's a solution yet.
Exactly.
So you have to educate your customer. Once you climb up a little bit to that second layer of the pyramid, you have conscious incompetence. And that's when you do know that you're not very good.
This is when you start to realize, oh, there's a lot I don't know.
There is, yes.
There's things I need to work on. I figured out I'm doing this thing and it's wrong. And now it has this ramification or this outcome, and I need to fix that. I need to learn this. I need to do something about it. And in the sales process, if you realize your prospect, that's the moment where you through qualification and asking questions, you want to get that prospect to that point where they go, oh no, I didn't know, but now I do. And thank you for making me aware of this.
It is, yes. So everything's really awkward, and you're trying to piece all this complicated moves together, right? And whether that's cold calling or handling objections, whatever it may be, you have to think about it, and you're about 30 seconds to a minute behind everything because you really have to process it, and you're kind of in the practice mode.
Right.
And it's a very frustrating time because nothing seems to go right. It's very awkward. It is very difficult to do anything. But you just have to fight your way through that. And there are millions of secrets how to do that more quickly, but you can't skip it. You can't skip any of this. This is the thing.
The telltale sign to me for a salesperson that's in that conscious incompetence segment or stage, and this is basically coming from experience from a certain point, but it's when you're too wordy. You're thinking verbally, and you are just vomiting all of the buzzwords you can think of to try to explain something that you don't quite have a good grasp on. And it's to throwing the spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks. Yeah. And that's a telltale sign of that competent or conscious incompetence.
It is. It's like 9 out of 10 times something goes wrong, but you're kind of trying to figure out what goes right that one time out of 10. And once you kind of master that a little bit or get better at that, then you go into conscious competence. And that's where, maybe 50% of the time you'll go into a sales meeting, you'll be doing something in sales or life, and it's working out. And you're really learning what's working. And you're kind of experimenting, and it's not really throwing spaghetti against the wall anymore. It's kind of testing the limits.
You know which noodles to throw, right? and the scary thing about conscious competence is that's where it's really easy to just end right there because that's where your ego starts blowing up, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I know my stuff now. I know I'm good. I know what to pick. I know what spaghetti to throw on the wall. This worked last time. I'm going to just keep doing it again, and it's going to work all the time now. And that's I think that can end and stunt a lot of growth.
It does. We talk about it all the time here is that fixed mindset and that growth mindset.
Exactly.
Right, and then that's your fixed mindset. And then you go to the top of the pyramid. there you have unconscious competence, right? It just becomes natural. You don't even have to think about it. In fact, if you even start thinking about it, your instincts go away and you screw yourself up.
Unconscious,
you overanalyze.
Unconscious competence, the thing that comes to my mind is these are the people that learned the great skill of listening and active listening. And now they don't feel the need to just start throwing all the good stuff out there that they learned in the conscious competence stage. They're like, I'm gonna listen. I know my stuff. I know what to listen for, but I'm gonna listen, and then what I hear, I'll know exactly how to apply the solutions that we have.
You're exactly right. And it's oftentimes people in that phase, unconscious competence, you ask them, how do you do that? And what answer do you get? Like, I don't know, I just do it.
Yeah,
I don't even know. I just go up there and I do that and it works, I suppose. And I don't know any other way not to do it because you've been doing it so long.
That's when you start to master something, right?
Yeah.
And the thing about it is it doesn't end there.
No.
You spend too much time in that unconscious competence, and then you're going to learn the magnitude of what you don't know, especially if you have that growth mindset, and you're just going to start repeating. You're going to fall right back into that orange, and then it's just going to start going over and over and over. This is a never-ending sort of pyramid, or I think you had a stair-step visual that may be a good representation as well.
Exactly. And this isn't, I mean, I guess this is life a little bit, but it's not that clean when you look at the entirety of life. These are very specific things and skills that you pick up. And to increase your skill set, you have to go through this staircase. You have to make that climb each and every time you learn anything new, anything at all. So sales being one, just a golf swing being another one, sitting up here and talking, right? And if you ask the crew back there, they would say, I might be in conscious incompetence right now, right? That's what they would tell me, certainly. So we will see. But yeah, so it's one of those things. It is a lesson that's out there. There's many books about that. There's a lot of websites that you can go read, learn more about this. But it's just that natural learning progression.
Yeah, and getting back to that fixed and growth mindset here a little bit, some people could look at this as climbing Mount Everest. Hey, I made it to the top of the pyramid. I've climbed the mountain. I think that life and sales and everything is more complicated than that. And I would say that this is more in line with making it to Mars, right?
Yes.
We finally got to Mars. That's an amazing thing. So much went into that, so much science and learning. And we get there and we're like, oh, there's a lot we don't know. And it starts over again.
It does, because you get to Mars and you realize what you don't know anymore. And you have a new set of challenges and problems, and you have to start building solutions from scratch because you don't know until you get there. Exactly. But yeah, it goes to that, this big universe, right? We answered this we got really good at getting to Mars. In the grand scheme of things, that's nothing.
And then, but you have that unconscious competence as a foundation that you can build on. So you're building future pyramids and future stair steps on the foundation that you've laid with the process and learning that you've undertaken up until that point. And that's huge. So you're always progressing and going forward and learning more and advancing and getting better.
You are. It's all about getting better.
Absolutely.
That's life, right? It's just mastering new skills. Talking about, life is about mastering new skills. Sometimes some of those skills go away in companies. And this was an interesting article I found in Wall Street Journal this morning about Bank of America or Merrill Lynch, the thundering herd, all those stockbrokers out there making money, cold calling, like the Wolf of Wall Street. They are ending cold calling, right? So there's been this huge discussion, is cold calling dead? I don't think it's dead, but for Merrill Lynch wealth advisors and wealth management team, I guess it is dead.
Some analysts did a whole bunch of number crunching and figured out that what they were paying people to cold call versus the success rate didn't make any sense. And I think this is a trend. I mean, when I answer phone calls when a number that I don't know. I'm in sales, so I always have that. It could be anybody, right? So I want to answer. It's like playing phone lottery. Like, who is it? Is it somebody trying to sell me a car warranty, or is this somebody who wants to move forward, right? And so, but if you're not in sales, like my wife and all my friends that don't work in sales, they see a number, they're like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know anybody that's like, ooh, who could this be?
I know, right? And you have the robocalls, you have all of these other things that have really gained traction over the last few years. And I know that if someone in the 918 area code, like from Cleveland, Oklahoma, or Sallisaw, is calling me, I don't know anybody in Sallisaw, Oklahoma, and if I did, they would be in my phone. So I automatically know, yeah, I don't want to answer this because I'm sure my car warranty is outdated. Of course, my car is 20 years old, so I don't have a warranty. I've never had a warranty on it, but I get sold warranties all the time. Here's a little snippet from the article this morning. Bank of America Corp's Merrill Lynch Wealth Management Unit is banning trainee brokers from making cold calls, a vestige of an area when the industry pushed out hot stocks to anyone who would pick up the phone. Merrill on Monday rolled out a revamped advisor training program that prohibits participants from cold calling and directs would-be brokers to use internal referrals or LinkedIn messages to land clients instead. The decision comes after the program's 3,000 trainees were told to stop outbound recruiting efforts to find new customers after last year's problematic phone calls. So it's, I don't know if LinkedIn is any better than cold calling. I think it was at a time, but I get so many cold messages, just blank messages on LinkedIn these days that I don't really respond to those either, unless you're sending me an actual message, or Richie will always respond to actual messages. But if you want to loan me money against my my fleet of trucks that I don't own, you probably won't get a response. So.
Yeah, and I think that this is it's a natural occurrence of, as the market tightens up, everything has to be faster, everything has to be more efficient. Efficiency is king these days, and that means you have to start getting rid of inefficiencies. We talked about the Pareto effect and the 80-20 rule. Mm-hmm. And if you're spending a huge amount of time making cold calls where you're 2% effective, like, there's got to be a better way to use your time. And I think it does put more pressure on marketing teams, because
I think even the stat, it does definitely do. I think the stat was 2% answer rate, not a 2% success rate.
Yeah, that's even worse.
So you're making 100 calls, you're getting 2 people on the phone, just on the phone.
How many of those people are like, bye?
I know, right? Yeah, you have to get 100 people on the phone to get like 5 sales or something. So that's a long climb up, but yeah, it does put a lot of pressure on inbound leads. Getting, qualifying those prospects. And that's what we'll be talking to Justin here in a few minutes about. Also, there's a lot of complaints. So Merrill Lynch has a lot of complaints. As always, whenever you have the thundering herd pounding the phones, calling making 1,000 dials a day, you're going to have some complaints. And the next chart is something I found at financial-planning.com. And that's been Merrill Lynch's complaints over the last few years, starting in 2017, going to 2020, you see it's declined rapidly. And I think that's probably because less people are actually making phone calls, those cold calls. They might have just banned it, but I think it's been trailing down.
I'd love to see further reports into this, because I think that not all cold calls are created equal. And I think cold calls that sound like cold calls, and cold calls where people are trying to make a close during the cold call, and again, this is for the 2% that are answering, but I think those are different outcomes versus cold calls that aren't perceived as such. Yes. I'm just trying to set up a meeting, or I'm calling to see how you're doing if you need any help. Like, there's ways. I think there could be some interesting data or interesting things to be found in further studies into this sort of thing.
I think you're exactly right. And Wall Street Journal here has this is part of the article too. In recent years, only a small portion of trainees completed the program. No surprise there, right? I mean, that's been a trend forever. As successful recruiters often had extensive personal networks and were less reliant on cold calling, trainees said. While cold calling offers the opportunity for a gifted salesperson to build a network from scratch, it is hard to succeed that way in an era when no one picks up the phone. Personal referrals lead to a response around 40% of the time, Merrill executive said, but less than 2% of people who are cold called even answer the phone. So there's a stat for you right there, Richie.
Yep.
But yeah, so building up that network, however you do that, and that really makes a point to where you should be building a network now, today, no matter the old saying, when's the best time to plant a tree?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yesterday.
Yeah. Yesterday or 25 years ago, right? So just plant the tree now, because it won't grow until you plant it. So that's always good. But yeah, so that'll add to the debate of, is cold calling dead?
It's like saying, is a tree dead, right? Going back to trees.
Yeah.
Trees don't just like, hey, I'm alive, and then the next day, just kidding, I'm dead, unless there's a tornado. Trees tend to die over 10 years or 15 years. They start dropping branches, they rot from the inside. There's this dying process. Mm-hmm. I think that what we're seeing with cold calling is the beginning of the dying process of the cold calling tree. And that over the next 5 to 10 years, as digital marketing starts picking up and we start building more and more efficiencies, you're going to see less and less of cold calling. When is the date where there are no more cold calls being made? I don't know.
I agree with that. I agree with the old way of doing it, but someone is going to reinvent the cold call.
I would agree
Someone
with
is
that.
going to do it.
I can get on board with that.
It just makes too much sense. I mean, because a lot of us did build up a network through cold calling, cold emailing. It does work if you are good at it. I know if 2% of the people are answering the phone, that's not good. But someone will reinvent it.
And
someone will.
There's some industries that lend itself to it, right? If I'm trying to sell Teslas, I might not be cold calling to see if somebody wants a Tesla. But if I'm a freight broker, maybe that makes more sense.
It does. It definitely does. So let's turn our gaze at the markets here, and you have a chart here with Sonar, talking about week over week changes. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, so this is a dry van chart, and what we're capturing here is market movement. And everybody talks about rates. What is a rate? What's a good contract rate? What's the right spot rate? Rates are like surfboards on the ocean. Everybody's rate's a little bit different. Some are long, some are short, some are wide, some are skinny, some sit deep in the water, some float on top. Everybody's are a little bit different. We all try to look at everybody else's surfboard and make ours somewhat similar, but it's the ocean underneath the surfboards that's moving all the surfboards. And that's what we're capturing here with this map. What we're looking at is two different data sets. One's reflected in the height of all the different markets, and that is going to be the week over week change in outbound dry van volume. So these tall markets have seen an increase in their outbound dry van volume over the past week. And then the flat markets or the depressed markets have not seen. It's been flatter or it's gone down. And then the color is showing what's happened with tender rejections for that outbound dry van volume over the last week. So these blue markets are showing markets where tender rejections have increased over the past week, with the darker blue being a bigger increase. In these red markets, rejections have gone down over the past week. So what we're looking at is a week over week market movement for the whole country. And this is really important because as we talked about all this volume that's coming into the country, that's going to create a lot of disruption in the marketplace, but we don't know exactly where that's going to occur until it starts to happen. And monitoring these week over week changes allows us to see what has the ocean of freight done on a market level in the past week.
That's great. I love that analogy. I hope you use that in your sales call.
When the time's right, yeah.
Oh, I know. It sounded really polished. It was really good, but it was a really great description of what's going on. You know, the ocean underneath and the waves. And that's what you really have to look at, and not necessarily what you're paying now or your micro situation.
Yeah, and a lot of what goes into rates are relationships and certain dynamics that exist for that type of freight and so forth. But you want to know what's going on in the marketplace and adjust your rate accordingly. You want to know leverage, or if you have leverage, or if you don't, regardless of if you're a broker, a carrier, a shipper. understanding what the ocean of market conditions is doing is impactful no matter which card you're playing.
It's just like when you talk about oil or gas or any other commodities, you have the CIMEX or the clearinghouse, where you buy oil, where barrels of oils are traded on a daily basis, but you have the basis where you actually, if you're a producer or buyer, you're selling at wellheads and refineries and things like that, and you have that differential. And it's the same thing in trucking, right? You have the price, and then you have your differential or your basis and your customized kind of maybe delivery timelines or expediency or things that you put premiums on because of the service. So
100%.
Yeah. That's awesome. That was awesome, really awesome analogy. So I think Justin is ready and joining us right now, and it's Justin Oglesby. He is the co-founder of Conversions.ly, and that's where they turn your cold prospects into hot prospects. Thanks for joining us today, Justin.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You bet. You bet. I love the bull behind you.
That's Bob.
Or
George or Greg. I feel like I come up with a new name every time.
Hey, can you introduce yourself, Justin, and tell us a little bit about Conversions.ly to start us off here?
Yeah, Justin Oglesby, co-founder of Conversions.ly. Essentially, at Conversions.ly, what we do is we help service-based businesses who don't have a consistent way to generate leads wake up to sales appointments each and every single day on their calendar. And we do that by, creating customized marketing and sales systems for our clients.
I think all salespeople love it when anyone says, we have prospects for you. We turn those cold prospects into meetings and engagements, right?
Yeah, 100%. Well, kind of what we specialize in is the sales pipeline, right? So if you look at it, and if you do anything at a high level, it really just becomes a numbers game. The more prospects you can put in at the beginning of the funnel, the more sales prospects, hopefully, if the conversion rate is correct, the more appointments you're going to get, and then hopefully the more sales calls you're going to get on, and then if the conversion is correct again, hopefully the more money you make inside of the business. So what we look at is each and every single one of those conversion rates and trying to optimize that as much as possible.
Cool. You have a really interesting background. Let's get a little bit into the professional bull riding, and then the transition out and into the business about 18 months ago that you co-founded.
About 3 years ago.
Oh, 3 years ago. Sorry.
Yeah. So used to rodeo and ride bulls. Was hospitalized for about 30 days. Kind of quickly realized how short life was. Wasn't that great at bull riding, but I made some money. But that's another story for another time. We won't talk about all my scars and anyway. So transitioned into business. Did the whole corporate thing. Started doing sales for orthopedic companies, and then realized that I wanted to do something more. Like that hospitalization kind of made me realize I wanted to, you really only get one shot at life, right? So I wanted to do my own thing. So started as a digital marketing agency generating leads, and what we found was that anytime we generated leads, a lot of our clients would say stuff like, "These leads stink. They never answer the phone. I can't get an appointment for them." So we, instead of pointing the finger at them and blaming them, we decided to actually create a solution. So we started digging down into Harvard Business Review studies on what it took to actually turn leads into appointments, because that was the next step inside of the sales funnel, right? So we started at a 20% conversion rate. We started with a Harvard Business Review study that said you needed to follow up within 3 to 5 minutes of a lead coming in. You need to make sure you at least do 6 follow-up calls. You need to make sure you have a dedicated person on the phone. And so we started there, and literally over the past 3 years, we've split tested everything that you can think about under the sun. How to call, when to call, who to follow up with, email versus text message versus phone call. We've got that all the way up to a 42% booking rate from leads to booked appointments.
That's impressive. That's really impressive. I'm kind of going backwards a little bit, but I would imagine you learned quite a lot about yourself and work ethic and how to think quickly on your feet on the back of a bull and riding a bull. I'm curious, what did you take from those life experiences into the business that you started, and how are you integrating some of those learned life lessons into the company?
Yeah, so it's funny with bull riding. I'm not sure if you guys watch it or know much about the sport, but it's like 8 seconds. Like happens like that. If you're on top of the bull and you're not prepared and you don't know like subconsciously what to do before the bull actually does it, and you're thinking about it while you're in the process, you probably already like have lost and got bucked off, right? So bringing that over to business, if you're not prepared, if you don't know what your conversion rates are, if you don't understand like what it takes to do the thing while you're in the thing, then probably not going to be much successful anyway. So taking that knowledge, like being as prepared as possible, really doing down and like practicing, digging down into the research, A/B and split testing everything under the sun, trying to get the best results possible is really something I've kind of taken from the professional bull riding side.
So it's almost like anticipation, if I'm hearing you correctly, is, all of that training that goes into bull riding, you're trying to anticipate, what is that bull going to do? How is it going to react? There's this chaotic animal underneath me, and it could do anything, but I'm going to do everything that I can to try to understand what it might do and be prepared for as much as possible. And it sounds like you're taking that into setting appointments. I'm curious. I got to ask the question. I'm sure you've been on a bull for more than 8 seconds, but have you landed a sales call in under 8 seconds?
In under 8 seconds, there was a sales call, and I actually have this. It's on my Facebook profile, but I have a guitar right here, and one of the guys was like, "Hey, I saw. I was watching one of your podcasts or something where you were playing the guitar. Can you play it for me?" And that was literally within like the first like 5 seconds, and I was like, "If I play that guitar, you guys are closing." And they were like, "Okay." So that's about as close as I've got.
That'll do it. That qualifies, I think. Definitely. So
I was serenading them.
So no matter what you do, it's the attention to details. It's creating that formula through all the testing. Richie pitched for the Padres organization, and riding bulls, and no matter what you do in life, you try to repeat the process the same way over and over and over again. And we booked an appointment for Justin when we jumped on the phone, and the contacts I received leading up to that appointment were very detailed and very much part of a formula. Can you kind of dive into that formula and why it works so well?
For the appointment setting, so as soon as let's just say a lead comes in, the best thing that we have found is to get a real life human being on the phone within 5 minutes. And the best thing that we have found is when you call, a lot of times they don't pick up. So you do what we call like a bulldog call, right? You hang up and you call right back. And then we started split testing the second call with the third call. So you call, hang up, they don't answer, call again, hang up if they don't answer 3 times in a row. Usually they're kind of like, what the heck, dude? But then you kind of ease it into the conversation. It's like, oh yeah, I just actually signed up for this thing, or yeah, I'm actually interested in this. And then it's all about just getting them on the phone, right? With a real life human being, have a meaningful conversation so that you can take them to the next step, right? So once we implemented that, our pickup rate increased by 88%. And so we're like, okay, we're doing that every single time. So human being on the call, if they don't answer, leave a voicemail, send a text message, call every single day for a handful of consecutive days. We like to do around 5 or 6. Wait a day, call every day for 2 days, wait a couple of days, and call every day for a couple of days, and then put them into a long-term nurturing sequence, right? Via email and text message, 6 months, right? Now, if we do get them on the phone, we're going to ask them a handful of qualification questions. And these qualification questions are designed to see if they're a good fit to actually take the next step, which is usually like a sales call or like a pitch. And then, once they're qualified, just say, hey, we want to set aside some time to actually go through what we can offer, kind of go through our products and service, and then book the sales call. And then we're seeing about a 80 to 90% show up rate if you do a email text confirmation, 48-hour reminder, email and text, 24-hour reminder, email and text, a 2-hour reminder, and a 15-minute reminder. At that point, there's no way that they're not going to know that that call is going to happen, right?
Yeah, that's, one thing that just came to my mind listening to you there, qualification questions. Because when I'm in a sales call, I might spend the first half of the whole call just wanting to understand my client, understand what they're doing, what their pain points are, how they're looking to grow. There's a lot that goes into qualification. So what have you found for condensing those qualification questions? How many questions are you asking? How much time are you spending on that? What are you looking for? How qualified does a client need to be for you to feel confident to move forward and book an appointment?
Yeah, so these appointment setting calls, these qualification calls, triage calls, whatever you want to call them, they're usually super short, like 5 to 10 minutes. You want to really get down to like the 3 basic questions. Like, hey, just want to, touch base. Are you the business owner or decision maker? Tell me a little bit more about yourself and your business, and ask them what their biggest challenges are, what their biggest pain points are. From those like 4 questions, you're going to be able to figure out if they're a good fit for your company or if you can help them. And if you feel like that is the case, then you transition that into, hey, let's actually set aside some time so we can actually go in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. In the freight industry, freight brokerages, oftentimes, the normal process is that you own the entire process, right? You are prospecting, you're finding people to call, you're generating those leads, you're prospecting, you're setting meetings, you own the entire process, which is difficult for a lot of people, right? A lot of really good salespeople aren't very good at lead generation or qualifying, getting people on the phone, following up. Certainly, in that beginning part of the funnel, right? Whenever you're prospecting and trying to set that meeting, and oftentimes people are trying to make the sell before they're starting the meeting. What is, from your experience, what's the biggest mistake salespeople do whenever they're just trying to qualify and set a meeting?
I think the biggest thing, as far as qualify, well, the way that we coach our clients on, by the time they get someone to respond to like an outbound message via like an email or cold call or text message or voicemail drop, by the time they're responding to that crafted message that we send them, that coming in, they're usually already qualified, pre-qualified. Mm-hmm. So they're either like responding positively, like, yes, here's my phone number, let's have a conversation. And then they're just getting a little bit more information to figure out if this is a good fit or not. I think probably the biggest mistake that people make is not doing that extra step before the qualification call, determining if is this the correct person? Is this my target market that I'm actually wanting to go after, get on the phone with, even for the qualification call?
And I think you see that whenever salespeople own that process, is oftentimes they're not calling the target market, right? Mm-hmm. They get outside of that pretty quick, and they're meandering around and talking to people that they shouldn't really even be talking to, because they're not even qualified buyers, but you're trying to make that stretch, right? And I've just seen a lot of companies, put so much resources into having their salespeople who are supposed to be closing deals and actually selling on the phone in the minutia of generating leads. And
right, 100%.
Do you have that same feeling out there that crosses a lot of different industries and not just in freight?
I feel like it crosses a ton of industries, and to be frank, that's why we're in business, conversionally as a company. One, we help you generate more leads, and we help give you an appointment setter that's going to help your sales team do nothing but hopefully just confirm appointments are going to be on their calendar, take the calls, and close the deals. Right? If you have an appointment setter that is solely focused on bringing in leads, turning those leads into appointments, then now you're separating the closer from like that other like minutia that they really don't want to do, nor should they do if they're super highly skilled at closing deals.
So I would imagine that your teams are working pretty close-knit with marketing teams, right? In order, there could be a marketing department that's put together, campaigns and different outreaches, and they have a certain type of voice that they have presented from a branding perspective. what are you doing, or how are your teams adapting and taking on that marketing voice and that brand identity to keep that consistency all the way through the sales cycle?
So I think it depends on an individual company, right? I think that probably will kind of fall on the shoulders of the sales manager, making sure that, or really the marketing director or the CMO, making sure that that marketing is consistent with the appointment setting and confirming those, or like generating those leads and then booking those appointments all the way to the closer, right? So I think that at a high level probably needs to be more of a easy transition.
Yeah. So we were talking about a Wall Street Journal article that hit this morning about Bank of America and Merrill Lynch and banning cold calls from trainees, right? So cold calling for trainees of Merrill Lynch is now banned. And they found that only about 2% of the people of the phone calls they made, people even actually answered. And I just want to see, from your perspective and your experience over the last, say, 12, 15 months, when more and more people were working from home, was there a significant change in the answer rate of telephone calls?
So we were doing some cold calling. Cold calling is really our last resort, and only if it makes sense in an industry and if you can actually get them on the phone. What we do is what we call cold call 2.0, where we send out like a voicemail drop or a text message, and we have them respond back to that message. And then once there is a response, then we call them, right? So what you're doing is you're casting out a super wide net, and anyone who comes into the funnel or responds back, then you're only focusing on those people versus like calling 100 people and only 2 people answer.
So is that like calling 100 people or casting out a net on 100 people, and you only follow up and make a second cold call if someone responds? Is that
correct? Yep.
Okay.
What's your stats on that? So are you increasing to, let's say you email blast 500 people and you get maybe 50 people, whatever it is, open an email or click on a link or something like that, and you call that subset of 50, are you getting 20% of that? Are you getting 40%? What have your statistics look like there?
So if we send out 100 cold emails, we're usually going to get about 2 to 4 positive responses of someone saying, yes, I'm interested. Here's my phone number. Let's have a conversation. And then the appointment setter immediately follows up as soon as that email is like coming in, and then getting them on the phone. And then we usually book about 40 to 50% of those onto a sales call.
Yeah. How do you like cold emailing? Because I found a lot of success at it by myself, and it's a numbers game. At the end of the day, it's a numbers day. I can only make so many phone calls per day, but I can put up a system where I can send out almost an unlimited amount of cold emails each day and hit those benchmarks and those metrics with a push of the button. Really, I can automate it all. I can do that, 100%. Sitting in my house having breakfast, and then follow up with people after that, instead of trying to pound the phone and make time and have the concentration and getting hit in the face 99 times out of 100.
I feel like cold email, cold calling, cold messaging in general is only as good as the script that you have and the framework that you use, right? So you just have to frame the message correctly. And then once it's framed correctly, if they're actually in your target market and are in need of your services, not most people, but majority of people will either open it, and then like a percentage of people will respond back to you, right? So I like cold email, I like cold messaging, because if you can get a targeted list of your ideal prospects, send them a super engaging message, have them respond back to you. That you don't have to. It's pennies on the dollar, really. You're not spending thousands of dollars in advertising.
It is. It's pennies on the dollar, and I have a couple of rules myself, and get your feedback on those, and if you have any rules to add to that. But the message has to be about your prospect's problem. Barely even mention yourself. If you can do that without even mentioning yourself, all the much better. And I have 120 words. I won't go over 120 words.
Yeah, so I mean, it depends on what type of message you're talking about. If you're like sending like a direct DM over like a social media, it's got
Mhm.
to be a lot shorter. You're talking about email, I probably would recommend putting in like some case studies or some links or something like that. But then there's some emails that you don't even need any of that, as long as you're sending them, like you said, as long as the email and the topic is about them and not about you. That's usually what you get the most responses.
Yeah, and on case studies and things like that, did you ever do 2 to 3, like a sequence, 2 to 3 or 4 emails as part of a sequence, and then add in the case studies and add in new nuggets each and every time?
Yeah, so what we normally do is like strictly talking about cold email is like we usually we'll send out an email and say whatever you say here, and then here are a couple of case studies that we have if you like to check them out. And the cool part about that is you can put that on a web page where you can pixel them and then show them YouTube ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads to quickly like take them to an appointment if for whatever reason they don't respond.
Kind of changing gears a little bit here. What kind of personality traits are you looking for the ideal appointment setter? Um, if you had to describe the ideal appointment setter from a personality standpoint, how would you describe them?
Yeah, I feel like someone who has like a marketing technical or like that kind of background, someone who is super engaging. When we're interviewing them, we're going through about 200 applicants a week. We've been doing this for a while, so we know what it takes to have a really really good appointment setter. We're looking for someone who has some type of experience with customer service, some like talking to people, having super interpersonal like conversational skills, and then someone who's just super hungry, who's naturally inquisitive and naturally like questions things, right? So whenever we're on the interview, we're asking them like, hey, this situation. Do you have any questions on this? And if they're like, no, that's probably not probably going to be a good fit for us. But if they're like, yeah, I had a question about this, that, this, and that. If they're like truly like curious, that what makes a huge like that sets them apart, right? Because usually in the discovery call or the sales call, you're trying to figure out the problem so that you can show them that you have the solution, right? And that goes for a closer or appointment setter.
Yes, intellectual curiosity. Keep asking questions, keep pushing, keep learning more. The more information you have, the better, the better off you are. Certainly. So on, I guess, what industries are you working most closely with right now, Justin? Is there kind
Yeah,
of
so
what's
really
your
any
key market, key
sorry.
target market? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So what I like to say, I mean, we have clients from insurance, roofing, marketing companies, med spas, chiropractors, really any like service-based industry that needs leads and needs appointments. I know that's super broad, but I mean, to be honest, like that is like that's who we help.
It makes sense because those are usually the industries where there's very little marketing dollars spent, and the sales process, prospecting and lead generation is really up to the salesperson. And
Right.
those are the industries that you're describing right there.
100%.
One question for you, Justin. I know that we were talking about this a bit earlier with the pyramid, but oftentimes when you are getting involved with something new or learning a new skill set, you may have some assumptions that you're taking in. And as you get more experienced, you either start confirming those assumptions or, disproving those assumptions and finding that those assumptions were wrong. Can you think of any, an example of an assumption that you had about appointment setting when you started the company 3 years ago that you have actually found through your experience to be, the opposite or not what you assumed as you've gone on and learned through building the company?
Yeah, so I think the biggest one with appointment setting is, just thinking that people. I mean, it's what like we're in 2021 right now. Like people are texting, messaging, like they don't want to be on the phone. So at the beginning, I was like, I don't like we'll see, like that's the research, but we'll see if like, because I thought like text messages and emails would probably convert better, just like sending them a link so they can book. But if you think about it, that's super passive, right? In today's like active, like passive world, you have to be more active, right? You got to be more proactive, going after the appointment and try to really schedule. So I was like, well, we'll see if like people actually answer the phone. And then usually what happens is if they respond to an email, or if you know, give them a call, or they respond, and then you pick up the phone and you try them over and over and over. Once you do get them on the phone, you say, hey, this is why I'm calling. Is this something that you need? Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you called because I had this question or this misbelief, or you know, and then from there you can easily take that person way easier onto an appointment versus you passively sending them a message and say, oh, by the way, you can book a link here.
Yeah, it's like most things in life, you have to get in front of people. You have to find whatever method you can to get in front of people, and usually that's multi-pronged. And that's what you really have to focus on. So Justin, what's next for Convergently? What are your grand plans for the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, so really cool. We're working on right now we have like lead generation and appointment setting, and then now we're gonna start working on everything from like literally lead to close. We're working a lot with our clients on organic marketing, and then also paid advertising, and then turning those leads into appointments, but then also helping them with like the sales calls and closing and all of that good stuff. So that's kind of where we're headed, literally from everything from lead to close.
Perfect, great. How does our audience reach out and learn more about Convergently and contact you directly?
Yeah, absolutely. So I put together a website for you guys. It's called officialappointments.com. Official appointments with an S. Okay. And then we put together a little training for all of your listeners, walk you guys through the exact process on how to build your own appointment setting machine, how to turn leads into appointments, best practices for managing your pipeline, how to increase your conversion rates, and how to optimize your show ups. Perfect.
That's awesome. So officialappointments.com, correct?
That's it. Officialappointments.com.
Yeah. So go to officialappointments.com, do the lesson, and learn more about booking appointments, because I mean that is one of the I think it's one of the weak points in a lot of salespeople's game is just selling the appointment, getting the appointment, doing that discovery call, and really doing a great job at qualifying leads.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, I would agree.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll send our listeners to officialappointments.com.
All right, thanks, guys. You have a good day.
Thank you for your time. You take
care. You know, my big takeaway there is he's calling while the subject is on the mind of the prospect, right? Yes. Within 5 minutes of that person opening an email, responding to an email, sending in an inbound lead or something like that. As soon as that person is engaged on the computer or whatever it may be, they're getting a phone call. And having an appointment setter with the finger on the pulse, and to that degree, and capitalizing on that and being able to get in touch with those people while it's on their mind, I think that's a huge component of some of the success that he's seeing.
It is. Whenever I was starting at Careless, I mean, I sent out the cold emails, and as soon as someone replied back, I was either replying back or I was looking up their phone number. I was trying to get them on the phone as quickly as possible to book a demo. And that's all I was trying to do. Maybe give a little bit of information, answer questions, find out more about them, and set that demo up to where them and their, whoever it was and their team could sit down on the phone, we share a screen, and go through the program and platform. And the conversion rates go up the roof. If you wait even 15, 20, 30 minutes, that person has gone on to something else. They might have gone on to another solution, but certainly in freight, they've gone on to the next fire that's always popping out in freight and logistics, right?
Yeah, and I think that window is even more crucial for freight and quick sales cycle type transactions like that, right? If you're one of 10,000 brokers and this person's getting inundated and they finally reach out to you, you have a window before their phone probably rings with another broker. And
definitely.
So there's definitely a lot of different variables at play depending on what you're selling.
Yeah, we say 10,000 brokers. There's 10,000 MC numbers for brokerages. There's probably 5,000 are active. But when we say freight broker, how many people do they employ? There's probably 100,000 freight brokers out there, right? So, and they are calling shippers constantly. If you're ever talking to a shipper, just relaxing, maybe having a cup of coffee, they get multiple phone calls, multiple emails a day from people who are trying to get their foot in the door. So you really have to be memorable.
And just like we were talking about previously, I think cold calling is still alive and well.
It is if you do it right.
Yeah.
I think anything is, as long as you're doing it right. You just have to be quick and active and maybe loud, like all the fire engines that seem to be going by over the last hour. I think there's probably been 5 of them, just right here on Market Street, just flying by. And come November, if you've never been to Chattanooga, you can come to F3 and you can be assaulted by all the fire engines and ambulances that are roaming downtown all the time, honking the horn and blaring it at the convention center. F3, November 8th through the 10th. It is the Future of Freight Festival. It is the Coachella of freight.
And it probably won't be 95 degrees outside like it is today. It probably will not. And I wonder if that's why the firefighters are everywhere, just because the city's practically on fire with the, heat outside.
Probably. It's been a really cool spring, and all of a sudden we're under this heat wave. So there might be some people passing out on the street. Who knows? Some tourists out there, they're passing out. But yeah, Future of Freight Festival, 3 days downtown, lots of events going on all around downtown. We'll be there on the live desk each day doing Put That Coffee Down. We also have the main stage that will be open 8 to 3 with some of the best content about freight and technology that you will find anywhere in the world. It's going to be awesome. We're gearing up for it right now. And What the Truck will be there every day. Put That Coffee Down. All of our live shows here on TV. So
it's going to be a huge crowd.
It is. It is. So you can go to live.freightwaves.com to buy your tickets now. Also, we have virtual events.
Yeah.
Virtual events. Our next one is June 9th. It's the Owner and Operators, or actually Small Fleet and Owner Operators Summit. And it's all going to be about owner-operators, small fleets. It's going to be about business, whether you should buy your equipment, should you lease your equipment, how to develop great relationships with both shippers and brokers. I have an interview with Dave Nemo from the Dave Nemo Show. He does Road Dog Trucking. He does the morning show. He's a fascinating guy, so it'll be a good interview. He talks to drivers all the time, so we'll see what's on drivers' minds right now. Wayne Craig and Josiah Ramos will be talking about what they wish they knew before they became owner-operators. Talking about unconscious incompetence, you've been a driver, but you've never ran your own business. You've never been an owner-operator. You don't know what you don't know, and you will find that out on June 9th. And then June 30th, at the end of the month, we will have the North American Logistics Tech Summit. I believe I got the name right there. And we will be talking about all the great things, all the great technology coming out in domestic truckload.
Awesome. A lot going on. A lot between now and November. As big as November is going to be, there's a lot going on between now and then.
I know. There is. So there's a lot going on. You can find it all at live.freightwaves.com. You can also find it at tv.freightwaves.com. You can also find it on our podcast channel, Freightcast, where you can download. In Freightcast, you can download every show that we do here, or you can download Put That Coffee Down on Put That Coffee Down, that channel.
Yeah. Yep. A lot of coffee to put down.
A lot of coffee to put down, but I think we could do about 4 shows on the pyramid of learning.
100%. And especially when you start matching that with the growth mindset versus fixed mindset and seeing how all these different things that we've been talking about over the past several weeks, they all integrate, they all mesh together, it all kind of starts making sense. And but there's still some contradictions out there too. So makes for good conversation.
There is. There's always disruption going on, and there's quite a bit in sales too. Disruption, people learning new angles, doing new things, like Justin over at Convergently, and having new products and services that are popping up to aid salespeople. So it's a great revolution in all industries. Sales being one, freight sales certainly being one as well. But yeah, check out FreightWaves now.
Yeah, for
our
sure.
morning show every single morning from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And coming up this afternoon at 3 o'clock, I'm joining Andrew Cox up here for Great Quarter Guys. We're going to talk about spending and finance and parcel delivery and the e-commerce world that we live in right now and see where that is headed. So take care. See you next week.
I got friends only wanna talk business. I got expensive, cause winning's expensive. I got expensive, cause winning's expensive. I've been reading all the war, and I've been shutting down the stars.